Coming up on Unwritten.
Realize it's like I'm in the S quadrant with the photography business. If I'm not shooting, I'm not making money, right? And
Mm,
so I can't go take 3 weeks off because then I have no revenue for 3 weeks, right? But if I buy a Smoothie King, like what I did,
mm-hmm.
I could be sitting on a beach and my employees are still selling smoothies and making smoothies. I don't need to be sitting there 24/7 making smoothies because it's trading
Yeah,
other people's time for my money. Money gives you choices. It doesn't necessarily buy you happiness, but it gives you choices. And that's what people really
yeah.
want, right?
Out of all these businesses that you've had, what has been the most fulfilling to you? Who win?
Yeah, it's like Huynh, yeah,
Like
like the
who
company
win?
Schwinn, like you remember the bike Schwinn back in the day?
Schwinn?
Yeah, it's good, but like Huynh.
Okay, so it's like saying who win really fast.
That's yeah, exactly right.
Who win? Win.
Yeah,
Trung Huynh.
and you are what, Filipino or what? I'm Vietnamese.
Yeah, I'm Filipino.
Yeah,
You could
okay.
tell.
Well, I actually have one of my best friends is Filipino, and it's funny like all the Asian people that I know that have like very interesting last names that are not Asian sounding tend to be Filipino
Mm.
because I guess there was like a lot of influence from Europeans back in the day in the
Well, I'm
Philippines.
actually half. Yeah, I'm half Filipino.
Okay.
But that is true though too. Like I had a lot of friends when I was in the military and in high school. The Filipinos had a lot of Spanish names. Like we had a Sanchez, a Rivera,
Mm-hmm.
but they were pure Filipino. And I
Mm-hmm.
guess it's because our history. I guess Spain like conquered them for a couple hundred years or something.
Yeah,
So
my
they
yeah, my
mixed with the
buddy's name is
Asians.
Talasic, which
That
that
sounds like straight up Filipino.
yeah, see, like if you didn't know that though, but it doesn't sound like Asian sounding, right? When you think of like
Oh
Asian
yeah,
names,
yeah.
it's not like
Like your name, Win.
right, right, or Lee, or
Oh
Wang, or
yeah,
something like that, right? You hear those, you're like, okay, that's definitely Asian, right? But you hear like Talasig, kind of could be anything unless you actually know if you're actually Filipino or you know about Filipino culture, you
and I
know.
feel like when you're Asian as well, like, and you grew up in that Asian culture, you can tell other Asians,
Mm-hmm. Yep,
like their ethnicity.
absolutely.
Like I could tell, like now I could kind of tell the difference between like Korean and Japanese and
Mm-hmm.
Vietnamese and but
Yeah,
growing up it was just like, oh, you're Asian, you're Chinese, or you're just from Asia, or
you're
like
Asian.
that's
That's what you're
that's all
Asian.
they knew. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now it's like, I don't know. Did you hear the news?
Which part of the news?
You know, you don't know what happened to Trump?
Oh, that assassination attempt? Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, it went everywhere.
yeah. Crazy things in the world, man. Crazy things happening in the world, and hopefully, that political violence, stuff like that is a one off thing and not something that we gets repeated. But yeah, I usually stay away from politics in general for me.
Same. It's a trigger point. It's a trigger conversation. Politics and religion and
Yeah. And to me, like, at the end of the day, there's so many other things I worry about. And I honestly, for the most part, try to keep my head away from the news, mainly because all of it seems like it brings you down than more than uplifts you and actually educates you well about anything. And so
it gets
I'm,
into your emotions.
yeah, it's not a something that uplifts me or educates me in any way other than just kind of like sensationalized whatever. And so you kind of like, okay, what is the point? You end up feeling like shit every time you hear the news, right? You're kind of like, oh, you're now anxious, you're worried, you're stressed,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, what the hell is that for?
Yeah.
And nowadays it seems like it's so polarized that even the news networks seem like they're so polarized, and people are like, this is like the left news and this is the right news. I'm like, where's the real news?
Uh,
Like, thing that's not
yeah.
biased, just tell me facts. And you don't seem to get
Yeah.
that anymore, so I kind of
Yeah,
rather
it's
not.
funny cuz it's like I've talked about a little bit of politics on my podcast and I always tell people I'm just apolitical. I have some leanings, whatever, but uh, yeah, it's like we're United States, right? But we're divided.
Probably more so than ever, unfortunately. Yeah.
But Trung Huynh,
Yeah.
I want to ask you, who were you like growing up? Why did you decide to pursue this entrepreneurship path that's extremely hard,
Hmm.
as I've been trying to do it for the past 2, 3 years now, after my time out of the Navy? Why, like, who were you growing up that made you decide to pursue entrepreneurship?
Well, like most Asians coming, I was born in Vietnam and I came over here, and we were very poor growing up. And for me, when I started my first little kind of side hustle, trying to just make a little money, like all Asian kids do, right? I I was very passionate about tennis, and so I was breaking my tennis strings all the time. And so my coach gave me an old tennis restringing machine. And so I was doing it for myself for a long time. And then people were like, hey, can you do that for me? And I'm like, all right, well, shit, let me go make some money. So I started charging like $10 to restring somebody's racket. And so I started making a little bit of money. And I was like, hey, this is actually kind of cool. And so I started doing it more and more. And then when I got to college, I actually turned it into a real business where I actually put flyers out in the university area, and I started getting clients, and that was just a little bit of side money to make ends meet, right? As a poor college kid, I was just working multiple jobs to make ends meet, pay for college because I was paying for it myself, and for me, it was always about just making some extra money just to make ends meet for a long time, having that side
Mm,
hustle, because it allowed me the flexibility owning my own little business to kind of make money anytime I needed to get a cash injection, make a little bit of money for the weekend or whatever I needed to do was just like that. And it was more survival, right? And so for
mm,
me, it was okay, this is a way that I can take control of being able to make money and not have permission to make money from other people. Whereas a job, you're asking permission to
uh,
work for somebody else, right? And don't get me wrong, I did have jobs and
yeah.
everything too, but this was just an extra outlet for me to make money, because the cool thing about restringing rackets is you just pick up the rackets and you return it in the next couple of days. So you can kind of do it anytime. So when I had a free 20, 30 minutes, I could restring a racket, and that made me like $15, $20. And so it was just
Mm.
flexible. I can do it at midnight on like a Friday if I was like, hey, I have some like an hour and extra too. I'm gonna go make some little bit of money, make 40, 50, $60 over the next hour or two. Whereas if I was working for somebody else, I was making like 7.25 an hour, and I literally got to sit there for the whole hour doing
Uh,
whatever. Where I was
yeah.
making like, I don't know, $20 per racket, and I can do two rackets an hour. I mean, that's 4 or 5 times
You were
the
doing the math.
yeah. And I was like, well, shit, if I'm doing that, then I can make so much more, and I have the flexibility, so why not do that? And so I started
Mm,
doing that. And then my next enterprise was teaching tennis. And I
mm.
played at a really elite level for a long time. And so I became like a teaching pro
Oh, really?
and started teaching and making $40, $50 an hour teaching tennis. And the best part about that was I can teach the people I really wanted to teach, but also be on the tennis court playing a sport I loved. And so what more can
It's a
be better than
win-win.
that? So that's kind of like awesome. I'm getting exercise and I'm getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that was entrepreneurship at the fledgling level. When I left
Mm.
college and I started my first engineering job, literally the first day I'm sitting down at my desk working for somebody else, and I'm like, I don't really see myself doing this forever. This could be a means to an end. And then
Yeah.
quickly, within like a year of starting my job, I found passion in photography, and then I started a photography business. And that took a little bit of time to actually build into actually making any money doing it, because A, I had to figure out how to shoot well, and
Mm-hmm.
then B, actually figure out how to create a business from photography. Because
Mm.
a lot of people that start photography and have loved photography for a long time, they approach it from like an artistic background, which was not my path at all.
Yeah.
For me, it was purely, I'm an engineer. I'm very logical and business oriented. And so I learned the business side of photography, which is what made me really successful, because there's a lot of other photographers that were really artists, right? They took
It's purely creative.
photography and
Yeah.
they wanted to be super creative. They wanted to take the best picture, but they hated sales. They hated marketing. They didn't want to ask people for money. And so they struggled tremendously. And they're like, I don't really like asking for money. I was like, you should probably shoot for somebody else. If all you want to do is take pictures, then you probably should just work for a studio where they just tell you to shoot, and you just spend all day shooting. That should be your business, and not be a business owner. Because
Like
being a business
freelancer.
owner, yeah, be a freelancer and just shoot. But even a freelancer, you still have to sell yourself to
Yeah.
get clients, right? You still got to sell yourself to actually book, sessions. And so if you work for somebody else and just got a salary and just showed up at like a studio in the mall, and just shot all day, then you're not having to think about anything. You're not having to think about the business side of the business. And, that's when I was coaching photographers. That's what I told people. I was like, hey, if you don't like the business side of it, just have a partner that wants to do that and take care of the business side, and you do the photography side, or you go work for somebody else, so that you're not having to deal with the part that you don't like about the business. But if you want to be the owner and you want to have a business, you have to learn these skills. And for a lot of people, they don't.
It's something. It sounds hard to scale, because it's like you're I guess the bottleneck. You're the one.
You're the talent, and you can't
so
scale
it's
you.
like, yeah.
That's exactly what I discovered 10 years into it. Yeah, so I shot weddings for about 10 years, and I shot more than 200 weddings over that span.
Oh, wow.
And so I've been to a lot of weddings, and I
You
had
see anything crazy?
you know what, like,
Crazy dramas?
not really. It's just some fun moments and things like that, but nothing like, I didn't
Love
have any
triangles.
bridezillas or anything like
Yeah.
that. No bridezillas. I did a very good job of screening out the type of clients I got to work with, and so I didn't experience any bridezillas, thank God. I've heard of horror stories about people that were just a nightmare to work with, and luckily I didn't book any of those. So
At least they caught it on camera. No, I'm just kidding.
what's that?
I said at least they would catch like the drama on camera, I guess.
Yeah. No, so for me, I was pretty lucky. I avoided most of those types of clients and whatnot. So, yeah. So I mean, your point is actually spot on. It was, in 2010 where I kind of had the revelation that I didn't want to continue doing photography because it's not scalable. Right, I can only shoot so many weddings, and I only wanted to shoot so many weddings because it took up all my weekends. And so, and the crazy part about this was I was still shooting weddings while I was still having a full-time engineering job, and I was shooting about 35 to 40 weddings a year. So I was actually making more money shooting weddings as a side hustle than I was actually as a full-time engineer, which is insane.
So, did you have like where was your off time? Did you have any off time?
You know what? This is what I actually prided myself on, is I actually built really, really good systems in my business where I actually had an assistant that came to my studio was in my house, right? So because I shot weddings, so I don't really needed a studio storefront really of any kind. So I had one room in my house that I allocated to my work studio where all my photography happens. So my assistant had the key to my house, and she arrived during the day, during the week, and spent time doing the processing of the images, editing, and all that stuff while I was at work. And so we created a really nice process flow where I didn't have to spend an exorbitant amount of time sitting behind a desk, doing processing, because I hired somebody else to do that part of the business. And so for me,
So it freed up some of your time.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can actually grow a business, because if you're doing literally everything, there's just too much work, especially in photography. There's a lot of editing time, a lot of hours you're sitting just going through images. And
That's how I feel about podcasting, man. Like this is the fun part. The not
But
fun
that's only
part
like
is
5% of the time, though. That's what people don't
yeah.
realize. Shooting is like 5-10% of the business, and the another 90% is the business of the business. And it's marketing, it's accounting, it's doing album layouts, editing.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah,
All the
you're
back end
photoshopping,
stuff.
yeah, all the back end stuff that makes a business run. And that's what most people don't realize about business is that like whatever you think you're doing in business, you're really only doing it 5-10% of the time. The rest of the time you're doing business.
And
So
they
that's
just
why
see the
people say,
success.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, you have to do that because that's really what determines whether you're successful or not. Because just being a photographer, being really good, that's great, but that's a small part of the equation. Because if you're the best photographer nobody knows about, you're still going to be broke.
That's like the number one rule of marketing and business is like you could have the best product, but if nobody knows your product, then it's not gonna sell.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the biggest lessons I learned was from Robert Kiyosaki. If you've read his Rich Dad Poor Dad
Yeah.
or any of his books, they're not like Shakespeare by any stretch of the imagination,
It's
right?
like mindset switch, like mindset
With some strategy.
shifts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with some strategy, right? But like it's written at like a third grade level. If you read it, it's like a third grade level, right? And but he said, you know what? I'm not the best writing author. And he says, but you see what the top of this book says? It says best selling author. Not best writing author. He says it's the best selling
Yeah.
author. And
That's true.
he says there are millions and millions of other authors that are write way, way better than me. But you know what? They don't know how to market it. And so they sell less than 1,000 copies ever in their whole life. And they never make any money. And that's the reality of
Sad,
it.
yeah.
And that's the same thing with
Sad.
photographers. Like they can be amazing, they can win a bunch of awards, but if they don't know how to market, they don't know how to do social media, they don't know how to sell, they don't really make money. I mean, they're just starving artists, unfortunately.
I think that's a lesson to learn for whoever's listening and trying to do everything by themselves. I think sometimes you have to have some sort of teamwork or some sort of collaboration with somebody to help you if that's what you desire to grow your business. Um, just building like a small team to help support you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a time and place to have a team, and when you're first starting out, you're not making any revenue, right? So it's kind of hard to
Doing
hire somebody,
everything.
right?
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to do everything to a certain level of competency, so that when you do hire somebody, and this is something I tell my clients, it's like if you don't know how to do that role, you can't hire it out because you don't know what good looks like.
And how are you going to teach them too?
How are you going to train somebody if you're like, I don't know, just figure it out? Well, then you know what? That's not a good thing to do, right?
Yeah.
When you are first starting it out, you have to, let's just say on a scale of skill from say 1 to 10, right? You don't need to be a 10 in it, but you need to be at least a 7, right? To say, hey, I know what
Yeah.
this is. I know what it looks like, at least decent work. At least I know what I can do that's halfway acceptable for me. And then it says, okay, this is a certain level of competency. At least I can train them to be a 7, right? For now,
Yeah.
right? And so I can get them to be a 7 relatively quickly, and then they can actually take the lead, and so that I can take that off my plate. But a lot of people make the big mistake of trying to outsource it so quickly, and they don't know how to do any of it. And one of the big things that I see right now is people are like, I don't want to do anything social media. Just I'm gonna hire somebody and they're just gonna write all my content for me. And I was like, sure, that's a possibility, but that doesn't attract the type of clients that listen to your voice and know how you
Yeah.
write and resonate with you. Say, let's just say if you're a coach, right? And you have a certain voice that makes you distinguish from everybody else. But if you have a social media manager, then they're kind of be attracted to the voice of the media manager or the person that's creating your content.
Yeah. Not
And
yours.
and so there's a difference between like you creating the content, you filming it, and then having somebody like repurpose it into reels and clip it up and do all these
Or
different things.
just
That's one thing.
brainstorming. Like I like to think of social media like I always get inspiration from other like people in my niche or whatever.
Yeah.
And just like this past weekend I seen some dude go viral like within a couple days, like 5 days he got almost 5 million views. And I was I wasn't following him before that, but I was like one of the first viewers of that 5 million. On the first day, it had like a couple thousand views, and I was like, okay, because it was a video about this. I could send it to you afterwards. Just a crappy like video not the best quality, just straight up, just like phone to camera type of quality, and the whole video was like 50-minute video of him just saying like I was a neurosurgeon for like 20 years and I finally decided to leave because I wasn't happy to just uh, pursue just peace and fulfillment. Uh, and he doesn't have like he had a savings, but it's gonna run out. And he was just being real, and it went viral like in the last couple of days. So it's like things like that we could learn from. I think people like just like authenticity, like relatability, and yeah, hopefully more stuff like that goes viral.
Yeah, no, I think there is something to be said, right? And it's your authentic person, right? People talk about authenticity, and I think that's pretty important because they need to part of why people select you, say as a coach or as a person they want to work with is yes, you need to have the requisite skills for somebody they want to work with, right? First, you have to have competency, great, but once you get to a certain level, most everybody is somewhat competent, right? But then they have to say, hey, do I like working with this person? Do I like this person? Right? Because at the end of the day, like if they don't like the person, they're either
Your personality,
exactly your
character.
personality has to shine through. So they're like, hey, I really enjoy working with this person, right? And then that's where your social media presence kind of shines, where you have to show your personality in certain ways. Because if you just write really bland content that could be literally ChatGPT created, right? Which is what a lot of people are doing. Like, I'm just gonna write all my content ChatGPT, and I was like, that's great, but it doesn't sound like you. It sounds like ChatGPT, right? And it sounds very generic content. But it's when you write the stories and when you write the content that how you struggled with anxiety or whatever it is that you're a coach for,
whatever.
right? Yeah, it could be like, I used to be 500 pounds, and now I'm like 300 pounds. I've lost 200 pounds in like a year. Like, let me show you how to do it, right?
Yeah.
And this is my
People
story.
like stories.
They learn by stories, and you can't ChatGPT that away. Like, you just can't. You can write it and then have it refined by ChatGPT. I think that's great.
That's what I like to do. Yeah, I like to use ChatGPT for like idea creation, and then I'll usually write a summary of my own summary, and then go back to ChatGPT to like analyze it, and then like I like use it like go back and forth like between my own
to kind of like refine your content, right? That's important. I think most people nowadays are thinking that they could not have to
Just
think of
let it
anything
do
and
it.
just let it do everything. And I was like, well, there's like the best content creators say ChatGPT gets you about 80% of the way there, and that extra 20% is your personality that you need to inject in there to make it really your own, right?
It's
because
like the 80-20 rule, right? Like you
80
have to
20
be
90
it.
10, it doesn't really matter, but at some point you
Yeah.
need to inject your own spin on things. Otherwise, whatever piece of advice you're giving, whatever, somebody else can literally
not
just chat
truly
GPT
you.
it. It's not
Yeah.
really you, and it's just like, how is that relatable? There's no story behind it that makes it makes it sticky, right? Because if you read like 10 tips about how to grow your business, whatever it is, right, that could easily be on a article in Forbes magazine or Success magazine, or like Google 10 top tips for growing your business, and you can literally
Yeah.
Google that, and you don't remember any of it, right? But when I tell you the story of the time where I was, on the brink of bankruptcy, and then I realized I needed to do this one thing, and I made it, and it turned around my business, and it saved my family from being kicked out of our house, you're gonna be like, oh, I remember that lesson,
Yeah.
right?
People
That's
remember
much more sticky.
stories. Yeah.
Exactly. They learn through stories. But yeah.
So after your photography business, you got into the franchise business.
Yeah. So what I realized in the photography business because I read Rich Dad Poor Dad's book called The Cash Flow Quadrant. And
Yeah.
yeah, in that book, without people that haven't read it, just basically it just tells you there's 4 ways to make money. One of them is if you're an employee, which is you trade time for money. Which is the E quadrant. The S quadrant is self-employed, where you're trading time for money, but you have a little bit more control, right? But it's kind of like photography. If I'm not shooting, I'm not making money, right? You're self-employed, like a doctor or a lawyer. You're self-employed, but if you're not billing hours, you're not really making money,
Yeah,
right?
you have
You're
to
not
be
you're not
there.
performing surgery or something like that. Granted, sometimes whatever they're doing is making a lot of dollars per hour. That's why they can be
Yeah,
millionaires. But it's
because they
still
can
like if they
invest
don't
it.
work,
Yeah,
they don't make money, right?
active
So
versus passive.
sort of, yeah.
Kinda, kinda.
And then you have the I quadrant, which is the investor, which is like your money making money. So like me putting money in the stock market, me putting money into say real estate, right? And the money is appreciating and doing working. And then the B quadrant is the business, where you're trading other people's time for money. Whereas for me, that's what I realized. It's like I'm in the S quadrant with the photography business. If I'm not shooting, I'm not making money, right? And so I can't go take 3 weeks off because then I have no revenue for 3 weeks, right? But if I buy a Smoothie King, like what I did, I could be sitting on a beach and my employees are still selling smoothies and making smoothies. I don't need to be sitting there 24/7 making smoothies because it's trading
Yeah.
other people's time for my money. And I had that revelation. And then after that, I decided to close down the photography business. And then over the next 2 years, I started looking for other businesses that I can truly buy, that I can really,
How does one
basically.
even do that? Like, how
What do
do
you mean?
you even? You have to have like what? Like good credit. You have to have a big savings account, or can you have low money?
When you say how to do it, meaning are you talking about how to find a business, or are you talking about how to actually execute on buying a business? Because those are two kind of different questions.
I guess just uh, a walkthrough of it. Like, how do you even like begin? Like, let's say you want to buy a business, and like I just started following Cody Sanchez too. You probably heard
Yep,
of her. She's
I
big
listen
on
to
this
her.
stuff. Yeah, she's
Yeah,
big
buying other
on the
people's businesses. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So it's like to me it's like something that I wouldn't mind owning. Like that I could understand. I don't always have to be there. So let's say you found the business or how do you find the business? Uh like let's say you make a decision, you want to buy this type of business. Okay, then how do you buy it and then how do you execute on
Well, I mean, there's a long answer and there's a short answer, right?
it?
So I'll tell you my
Yeah.
process, okay? Because there are different ways to go about doing it. For me, I knew that, like, so for example, the reason you buy a business is because you want to, you're not buying a crappy job, right? Like, if you go buy let's just say you go buy a Smoothie King and you're like, hey, I'm going to go work in the Smoothie King every day, as a manager, well, then you're
Yeah.
buying a $40,000 job. And that's not the point,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm an engineer making like 80 or 90. The last thing I want to do is quit my job and go make a $40,000 job. Like, that's not the point. The,
I
the
had
whole
a
point of buying a business is so that you can
yeah.
leverage other people's time for your money.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? And so for me, it was about like, okay, what is a business that I could spend relatively minimal time in that doesn't require my constant attention, right? The next thing is like, I have to kind of believe in the product,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for me, I looked at different types of franchise restaurants and things like that, and I was like, I don't think I'd ever say own like a KFC because I'm not a customer. I don't like the product, and I wouldn't be proud to own that because I couldn't. I'm not a customer, so I don't really care for the product, so I couldn't own it and really stand behind the product because I don't believe in it, right?
Yeah, that's big for me too. You have
Yeah,
to
it's
believe in
important,
it.
right? Because you're like, oh, I don't. It's like, hey, do you like KFC? I'm like, yeah, not really, but I own
But
one,
I it doesn't
right? So to
even
me, that's out of integrity for myself, right? So if I do something, I'd have to at least say, I like to do it,
That's
And
like
I knew
sales too. Yeah.
absolutely, if the
You
people
have to
that
like
sell,
what you're
you have to have
selling.
conviction. You have to believe in the
Yeah.
product, right? If you can't believe in it, you can't sell it. Like it's just
Yeah.
like it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a shitty day every day,
Yeah.
right? So for me, that's what was important. I knew that I wanted something that is relatively easy to kind of teach somebody, right? Because like if you own, let's just say you open a regular restaurant, you have a lot
Uh,
of people you need
yeah.
to train. You have to have a cook,
A whole
right?
staff.
A host
Yeah.
staff. You have to have a hostess. You have to have wait staff. You have to have a manager. You got to deal
Chefs.
with food and all this stuff. And so there's always a bunch of skills that you have to teach everybody. And if one person out of there is missing, like the chef calls in sick, or both chefs are like, I fucking quit. What's going to happen? You can't actually open the restaurant. So when I looked at
Yeah.
Smoothie King, everybody in the franchise business there, that's all staff members, all of them do every role because it's a simple business. There's nothing to burn. There's no cooktop. There's no vent hoods. It's blenders, ice, frozen fruits, fresh fruits, and fridges. That's it, right? And so
Yeah.
we
Pretty
have
simple.
17 to 25-year-olds working there. Within about 3 hours, I can teach anybody how to make a smoothie and run the cash register. It's pretty easy. So if one person calls in sick, I can get any one of the 13 other team members to come in and fill for them, and it would work. And you only needed two people at any point in time. Sometimes when it's super busy, you may need three on the
Do
super
you
busy
need
hours.
a manager as well? Like
Yeah, but the manager doesn't
that
need to be
you
there all the time.
they do like the scheduling and stuff.
They do the scheduling, but they're there 40 hours a week, maybe the main parts of the day. But for the most part, like, two team members can open the store, can close the store, and it's a simple business. Does that make sense? So for me, it's kind of like I don't have to spend hours and hours and hours to do specialized training, right?
Yeah. So do you need like you need some savings to buy a business, or can you buy it on credit?
So
Like
the
business
average,
credit or something?
so there are multiple ways to do it, right? So when
Mhm.
we built our first business, I got a business loan. So I
Mhm.
bought into my friend's business and I bought 50% of the business and I got a business loan for that. Okay. So
Mm.
that was doable. On the second store that we opened, we built it from scratch. So we had a strip center that we're like, hey, we want to put a franchise right there. So we put down 25% of the money, and then the
For
the
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 rent
bank
or
the bank went the bank loaned us the other 75%. So it wasn't too bad. So like a build out for a Smoothie King, back in 2014 was $235,000. So for us, we had to come out of pocket maybe about $60,000. That's between the two of us. So it's only like $30,000, right? Which is not nothing. I'm
yeah,
gonna tell you that. So it's
only.
fair enough. But the thing is, it's not like you have to come out with $250,000 out of pocket either.
Like straight up, yeah.
Right. So, like some people take it out of their 401k. Some people, do it other ways. So it's more doable. And that's the traditional way to say buy a business, right?
Have
There
you
are
looked
many
into
many other
Chick-fil-A?
ways where you can say, if you're saying trying to do what Cody Sanchez talks about, which is,
Yeah,
buying
boring.
existing businesses,
Yeah.
whether they're boring or not, sure. And it's about using creative financing to be able to do seller financing and things like that. So,
Yeah, like leverage.
right? And so that's doable as well. So there's many ways to buy a business. The key for you is it a business that you don't have to absolutely love it, okay? Like I enjoyed Smoothie King. I wasn't like, oh my god, this is my life's calling. So don't feel like you have to be like, this is the end all be all business. Because
Yeah.
for me, businesses, you know, you have to be somewhat interested in the business, right? You don't have to be like, oh my god, this is what I've been dreaming my
This
whole
is
life
your
to do.
purpose.
It's not
Yeah.
your purpose. It doesn't have to be. Some people
Yeah.
make it feel like it needs to be, but it doesn't have to be. It can be. It's nice to be, but you don't have to be. Because to me, just like people's careers and jobs, over the years, you transition to
Yeah.
different jobs and you do different businesses. I did photography. I did,
Mm-hmm.
before I started photography business, I had zero interest in photography. Like
Yeah.
it
You
was never
changed.
my creative outlet. I was a mechanical engineer. I didn't have a creative bone in my body. Like so like it wasn't something that I grew up saying, I just love looking at pictures and I want to take pictures all the
Yeah.
time. It wasn't that, but it served its purpose in my life. I learned a lot, and then I moved on to a next business, and then after I stepped away from the Smoothie King after 8 years, I got
You
into real
still
estate.
own them
No, I
or
liquidated
you
them at
sold
the
them?
end of 2022. It was a business that was based out of Houston, and I wanted to
Um,
relocate to Austin. And so I liquidated my real estate rental property portfolio as well as my Smoothie King so that I can relocate to Austin.
you started fresh or what?
Yep. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
So
I
now
knew
you
that I couldn't really
can.
be in another city and try to run a franchise restaurant like that because, there's times where I had to show up to the store and kind of help out and things like that. And
Yeah, I was gonna
being far
ask
away,
like
you can't really do that from afar.
like how often did like let's say you have everything running smoothly, like how often do you actually have to like go in and do
Well,
whatever?
that is dependent on the owner. Okay.
Okay.
Everybody's different, right? Just like I consider it like a relationship. There's people that are super, super like PDA. They love holding hands everywhere in public. Some people don't really hold hands ever,
Yeah, I don't like
right?
that.
So everybody's different, right? So I know some franchise owners where they're in their stores 40 hours a week and they are their manager and they run their stores and they love
Yeah,
it,
that was my last boss.
right? And then there are people that own 10 or 15 of them and they never go to any of the stores because they actually have an area manager that takes care of the operations and manages all the other managers at each of the individual stores. And they
That's like
just,
purely hands off.
yeah, that's you owning an enterprise. And he owns like, I think at one time he owned 10. I think he's up to like 35 now. And he's the
What?
largest franchise owner for Smoothie King in the Houston market.
Uh,
So like he's past that level, he's not at the store ever. Probably most people probably don't even know that he's the owner, his employees, because he's never at the stores. So those are like two ends of the spectrum, right? It just depends
yeah,
on how much involvement you want, and and at the beginning, if you're still learning business and you're still
you should
learning how
probably be
to,
there.
the more you learn, the quicker you get to be a better entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing: if you pay a manager, let's just say you pay a manager, say $40,000 a year, they have the skills of a $40,000 manager. Period. They don't have the skills of an owner, and they don't have the incentives to run your business as if they owned it.
Yeah,
To
the
them, it's a
ownership.
job.
Yeah,
Just like when you get paid to do a job at like an engineering firm or whatever you do,
wherever.
you
Yeah,
you clock in, and by the time you clock out, you check out emotionally.
yeah.
You don't care about what happens to the store after that. To a certain extent, you do. If you have good employees, yes, they do, and they care, right? But they only $40,000 care, as I call it,
Yeah,
right? You can't expect them to care like as if they own it because they don't,
that's so true.
right? And so they're not going to be thinking strategically as if you were in terms of being the owner and thinking the 5-year vision of what your business should be. They don't have that foresight,
That's how
right?
every job I get. That's how I think. I always like have like every job, whether it be a part-time job or full-time job that I work in, I always have this like daydreaming thoughts like, man, I just want to do my own thing. Like I don't want to do this. But, you know, sometimes you need that job to have
Honestly, I
some
don't think
sort of
there's
stability.
anything wrong with it as long as you feel like you're working towards a means to an end, right? Because a lot of the jobs I had, I still had the Smoothie King and I still had a job
Yeah.
because I only spent like 5 or 7 hours there a week at the most.
Yeah.
That's between two stores. So like what am I going to do with the rest of my time? Like, I was making
Yeah.
money, but I was like, I still want to be stimulated mentally, right? Because
Yeah.
I had a really cool job in engineering, and I was getting paid hella good money, and I used that revenue from the jobs to actually fund me buying Smoothie Kings,
Hmm.
right? And buying real estate and things like that. So to me, some people, I get it if you want to leave your job because you hate the job. That's totally understandable, right? A lot of people are like, I want to quit my job because I hate it. Totally understandable. Yes,
Yeah.
create your business and then exit. Absolutely. Totally doable. But if you actually like your job, like
Yeah.
you have the choice, which is beautiful, right? Because
Yeah.
money gives you choices. It doesn't necessarily buy you happiness, but it gives you choices. And that's what people really
Yeah.
want, right? To
That's
me,
true.
what I tell people is I want to make enough money to retire, but I'm not going to retire because the people that
Yeah.
are successful enough to make enough money that they're able to retire are
Yeah.
in the game, and they're like this, right? They're not going to be like, I'm going to sit there and play golf all day, because honestly, after like a month, they're going to be bored out of their mind.
Yeah, and you don't have like no,
Anything
I
stimulating.
guess, purpose, I
Yeah,
guess.
you have
Like
no
you don't.
purpose. You have nothing to stimulate you mentally, emotionally to kind of do that stuff. And then people deteriorate really quickly. That's why when people retire, their health kind of
Uh,
declines immediately
yeah, because they
because they don't
lose
have a purpose
purpose.
every day.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a million things you can do, but like for a lot of people, working has been the source of their purpose for a long time. And the people that are at the game and they're entrepreneurs, they're always trying to create something new. So like if I made like the 3 million I think I could retire with, I don't think I'd ever quit because I was like, this is hella fun, right? Because I'm
Well,
gonna
and
go
then
build
you
something
can
else
use, yeah, and then you can use like that money, whatever. Like,
to
let's
grow
say
it
you
and to build
liquidate it.
some,
Yeah.
yeah, to build it, to build my nonprofit, to do whatever. But it's about like being stimulated, being excited about something. And it could be
Hmm.
like you start a nonprofit, right? You could do that, and that could
What's
give
your
you new purpose.
nonprofit about?
Well, I don't have one yet, but my nonprofit is going to eventually be about teaching entrepreneurship to underprivileged people, because I
Hmm.
feel that entrepreneurship and building a business has been a vehicle that has truly changed my life.
Hmm.
And I want to make it that accessible to other people, whether they're immigrants to this country or just poor. And just, I know that being an employee is not the way to truly achieve financial freedom unless you become like a doctor or a lawyer, right?
Unless you have
Something
a
really,
high
really high.
paying, high income job. Yeah.
Correct. And that's very few percentage of the people, right? There's very few millionaires that ever became millionaires from being an employee,
Yeah.
right? It's very few, unless you're like in the C-suite, right? And so for me, like
Yeah.
I think that
Or super
entrepreneurship
frugal.
isn't taught. What's that?
Or super frugal. Like you're living on
You can
bare
save yourself to be a
bones.
millionaire, but like it's like, do you want to live that life?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Right? It's kind
saying.
of like you can have a long life, but if you're not getting to do anything enjoyable, then what's the point? That's my opinion, right?
That's
I'd rather
true.
earn my way to a millionaire than save my way to being a millionaire.
That's true, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So for me, it's about like creating a education system, because entrepreneurship isn't taught in regular school. We are given the skills in our traditional education system to be employees.
Yeah.
We're not
Well,
taught to
that's why it
entrepreneurship.
was designed. If you look back, like um, through history, I think one of the Rockefeller, like one like somebody in the Rockefeller family, like one of the biggest families of that time, they helped develop like the modern school system. And at that time, they were focused on just building this industrial revolution to
They need a skilled labor
create,
force.
yeah, to create more.
Yeah, needed a skilled labor, and so an education system was the way to do it. And so, for me, I feel that entrepreneurship isn't taught, and it's a skill that is very valuable. That it could change your family's legacy and the trajectory of being able to create intergenerational wealth, right? And pass it on to your kids and things like that. Where having a job, you can't pass a job down. You know what I'm saying?
You could
So
pass down the stresses that it comes with.
probably, yeah.
You had a
So
bad day at work and your parents come home At least for me, that's
Yeah.
your parents are stressed out from work. They come home and yell at you for no reason.
Right.
But I guess what um so out of all these businesses that you've had, what has been the most fulfilling to you?
Um, fulfilling. Actually, the real estate was actually so much fun, and I got to do some really cool things with it. And but being a coach actually has
Mm.
been really just inspiring and fulfilling, because when you're able to kind of help people see the best version of themselves, and then
Mm.
really giving them the tools to be able to fulfill on their dreams, right? To be able to build that business they've wanted, to be able to grow the company that really allows them to leave the job that they don't want, or go build the lifestyle that they truly wanted for so many years and never really had, say, the skill set or been able to do it themselves, right? So, what I realize is that when you help people see their biggest potential, like, and they light up and their life is completely changed, that to me is like awesome. I think it's no other thing that I've seen that as fulfilling. And what I've realized over the years is that I really love teaching. I
Mm.
really love empowering people. And I have like 24 years of entrepreneurial experience that I want to share with other people. And to me, like, it all aligns with me doing the coaching, is because I get to teach, I get to share my knowledge. I spend years and years and hundreds of thousands of dollars on personal development courses and programs and seminars and workshops that if I'm able to share that with my clients and be able to get them out of that dark place that they've been stuck in for a long time in their business, where they're like, I'm doing all this stuff, I just don't know why it's not working.
Mm.
And what you'll realize as you get into business is 80% psychology, 20% execution.
Mm.
And most people are stuck in their business in the fact that they are at the same revenue level for months and months, and or stuck at zero for months and months, and don't know why.
Like
They're like,
breaking
I'm really
even.
busy. I'm really busy.
Yeah.
I'm like, busy doing what? You're either busy or you're making money. You're making money if you're busy, or you're broke. But how are you busy and not making money? What are you doing, right?
Yeah.
So for me, the first part of when I work with clients, we look at their mindset in terms of, a lot of them tend to be employees that are trying to build a business on the side, right?
Mm.
Right. And
Okay.
so they come at it with an employee mindset, and they're very risk averse. They think,
Mm.
I can do one thing and do really, really good at it. Whereas an employee, that's what you're taught. You don't make mistakes. You just do your thing. If you make a lot of mistakes
Yeah.
in your job, you're gonna get fired, right?
Yeah.
And so they come into building a business with that same mindset, and that really holds them back, because they don't try things, they don't learn new things. Because when you, let's just say you're like a really good accountant, right? And you want to start an
Mm.
accounting business to, say, help small businesses do accounting. Let's just say that's a simple
Mm.
business, right?
Like a consulting type.
Sure, like you're just like, hey, I can be your bookkeeper, right? I can bookkeep
Mm.
for you. I can do your bookkeeping. What they don't realize is that they may be really, really good at, say, bookkeeping or like accounting, right? They don't have any skills in marketing, sales,
Mm-hmm.
social media to broadcast their network, how to identify who their ideal clients are, how to speak to their ideal clients and speak to their pain points and all this stuff. So they have one skill, but they need to learn like 10 more skills. They don't ever learn those, because they're like, if I build it,
Mm.
they will come. If I'm a really, really good accountant, they will come. And what usually happens is they end up not having any clients. And so this side business is like, they have like one client for like months and months and months. And they're like, oh, I picked up a second client. 6 months into the business, they have two clients making, like $100 a month from each client. At that rate of growth, I mean, it may take them 10 years before they make enough money to actually leave their job. And they're
Yeah.
like, I'm working really hard. I'm posting and I'm like doing all this stuff. And you're like, yeah, but you still don't have any clients. So what are we doing? You know, they're doing the right things at the wrong time.
What do you think the most common problems are that from what you've from the people that you've helped?
Well, so like there's three prongs to the problem, I think. So there's three big steps that we take. First is the mindset of being an employee. So they're like risk averse, right? So they're kind of reluctant to learn, like to take risk, right? Because in Silicon Valley they say fail fast, fail often, right?
Yeah, I've
You
heard
got
that.
to you got to fail, learn, fail, learn, fail, learn. They don't come with that mindset, so they end up just taking very little things, and they could take baby steps towards anything. They're like, oh, I'm gonna do a little bit, so they just take forever to learn anything. So they got to shift their mindset from there, right? And then the second part, the big part, is getting them educated on some of these skills they need to learn, right? Because they just don't have the skill. They don't know what they don't know. So I go through and teach them, the basics of identifying their ideal client, working on their messaging, working on a marketing plan on how they actually could let people know about what they do. Some people just don't have any idea about how they do it. They're like, I don't know, I just tell my friends. I'm like, okay, so you've told your 10 friends. What do you do then? What do you do after your 10 friends? Right?
Yeah.
And then we talk about sales. Like, how do you actually have a sales conversation? Right? Because people just don't know how to sell because they've been their whole
It's
life, they've
hard
been
to
sitting.
ask. Yeah.
Yeah, they have, and a lot of times we're working through the money mindset issues, right? Because they're like, I don't really like asking people for money. I was like, well, you should not own a business. Because if you can't ask for money, you have
Yeah.
to, ask people for money to be able to do a service for them, right?
That's the whole purpose of yeah.
That's business, right? If you don't get paid
Yeah.
for what you do, then that's just a volunteer job, or it's called a hobby. You can have a hobby, which is nothing wrong with the hobby, but if you're thinking that you
Free
actually want to have a
work for
job,
free. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's called volunteer work, and if you want to keep doing volunteer, then that's okay. And then the third part is the fear of failure and the fear of criticism and the fears that hold them back. Because after you learn all the skills you're supposed to do, I have conversations with my clients, and then I'm like, okay, great, Jenny. We talked about marketing and writing posts and things like that. How'd that go? Oh well, da da da, all these excuses, right? And so it comes back to your mindset of you know what you need to do, yet you don't do it. Why is that? Right? Because like I've given you the skill set. Now you're starting to learn some skills, yet you're not implementing any of the things that we've talked about doing. Because there's some new excuse about why this, why that, why I don't have
Didn't have
time.
time.
And I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, so you're telling me this is a priority in your
That's the
life,
big one.
right? It's just like, oh, it's not perfect yet. I need to make it more perfect, right? It's
The
procrastination.
procrastination
It's
trap.
procrastination, which is really fear disguised as perfectionism,
Ah, I like that.
right? Perfectionism
Yeah.
is purely procrastination, and really at the root of all that is fear of putting out something and failing at it,
Criticism.
right? Criticism.
Yeah.
When people start a business, they write some social post about their new business, and then of course they get the parents or their sisters and their friends are like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? What new adventure are you doing?" Da 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 da. Some people are curious, some people are supportive, but a
The
lot of people are
naysayers.
there are a lot of
Yeah.
naysayers, and they're just like, I don't want blah 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 to say something about it. I know they are always negative, right? And so
Yeah.
that holds them back from doing the things that they need to know to do. They know to do it, yet they do not do it. And so now we got to get back into about why it is, because if you know what you need to do and you execute everything you can do, anybody can be successful. It's like, you do this input, you get an output. You do an input, you get an output. You do an input, you get an output. If you don't like the output, you change the input a little bit, and you keep doing it, right? You just keep, it's kind of like walking, right? You just keep
Yeah.
trying all these different things until you learn how to walk. You don't tell your kid, sorry, son, it doesn't look like you're going to be a walker after 2 weeks. You're like, you know what? I don't think you're going to be a walker. I guess you're going to be crawling the rest of your life. Yet people in life,
Yeah.
they have two fallacies, which I see a lot. They fail once or twice and they give up, right? Because they're like, I don't really like social media. I'm not really good at it. I'm like, why do you think you're going to be good at it? You've never done it.
Or they use their failures as an excuse to stop because they're like, oh, look, failed twice. Let's say you try something twice, then they use that as an excuse to
Absolutely.
stop.
Yeah. So they use that as an excuse, but the thing is, like, they expect to be good at it. When they're not good at it, they don't like doing it. And I'm like, if you started playing soccer, do you think you're gonna be Lionel Messi the first day? Why would you expect to
Yeah,
be good at
the
marketing?
beginner's mindset. Yeah.
You know what? The problem is, we've been trained for so many years to be, well, most of the people that come to me tend to be relatively successful career people, right? So they've been successful and they do one thing really well, and they don't fail a lot, right? So they're not used to being a newbie
And
at
they're
something,
stable.
right? They're
Yeah.
not used to being a newbie at something. And so when they learn something new and they're bad at it, they hate that feeling. And so they're like, I don't really like it. I'm not really good at it. I'm like, well, you can't expect to be good at it when you never done it. Yet they come in with that
Yeah.
mindset, and so they teach them not to do it. Yeah, sorry. And so does that make sense? And so people do that, and I'm like, so why do you think that
Yeah.
you'd be good at it? And then the next thing is they start failing at it, and then they give up after once or twice, and they're like, I've tried everything. I'm like, really? You've tried twice?
How do you help people when they get into that? Like, do they just give up or?
Well, I mean, it's looking at the things that they're focusing on, right? Because if they're thinking about, getting them to understand the bigger picture, right, and reframing what they need to be focusing on. Because if they're focusing on what it feels like to fail, then that's all they're going to focus on, right? Right?
I would tell them, don't focus on what it feels like to fail. Focus on what it feels like to learn from the failures.
Well, that's part of it, absolutely. But it's a mindset, but also physiology, but also the state, right? Because if you're,
Yeah.
it's like, to me, it's like reframing failure, because it's either you win or you learn, right? Because
Yeah.
failure is not, it's like, now you figured out one way not to do something. But like every time that somebody fails, it's one more data point. And the problem with most
Yeah.
people is like they get 2 data points. They're like, oh, this is clearly doesn't work. I told you. Right? and so they come at it from a very skeptical point of view. So it's like, for example, I
Yeah.
tell people, it's like, okay, if you come at it like, if you, let's just say like your door-to-door salesman, right? If you show up
worst.
to, it's a tough job, and I actually did it in
tried
college.
it too.
It's tough. It's a tough business, but you learn to brush off failure, right? Because you're just like, I got to talk on 100 people. I got to talk to 100 people a day. And you learn how to get rejection. And I tell people, it's like, if you want to learn like rejection and be okay with rejection,
do that.
do that. Like, it's the fastest freaking thing you do for 2 months. You're like, okay, I don't care about no anymore.
Yeah.
Right? But when I tell people, it's kind of like, if you go up in your door-to-door sales and you're like, you don't really want to buy this, do you? You don't really want to buy this, do you? Yes, you've knocked on 100 doors, but you're not really skeptical. You're not really bought into the product, or you're not really convicted. You're not going to be
enthusiasm.
successful, right? Because what's going to happen is nobody's going to want to buy it. You're like, see, I told you I don't really believe in this thing, so nobody bought it. And now I told you that I'm not good at sales, right? You're just,
bias.
it's confirmation bias, right? And so like if you show up though, but you're like, hey, I really believe this mouse here is amazing. I really think you should buy it. It's the best mouse I've ever had.
Yeah.
At some point, there's going to be a certain percentage of people that will buy it because you're so convicted and you're super excited about it, right? So it's the same thing when you approach how you try something new, right? Sorry, this humming in the background here is like, I don't know if you hear it too badly, but they're testing the alarm around here. Okay.
It's not that bad. No.
Okay. And so I tell people it's the mindset that you come into with how you approach it. Because if you approach it as, hey, this is me learning, and this is me, and it's okay to not get it right because I'm learning, right? If you come out with that mindset and say, this is part of my learning process, and the only way I get better is that I learn, and I do it more times over and over and over again, right? Whereas if you come at it, it's like, this is my only one time to succeed, and if I fail, then my whole business is a failure. Well, you're gonna be like putting so much pressure on yourself because you're like, this is my one chance, and if I fail at this one sales presentation or my one sales consultation, then like I'm never gonna be successful. You know what I'm
Do
saying? So
you
you do that kind of pressure for yourself, and you're never going to be successful.
do you recommend people, like, I know everybody's different, but what would you recommend? Like, do you recommend somebody, let's say they have a stable job, they have a little bit of savings. Do you recommend them just go all in and do this, or do you recommend them start like slowly as a side hustle, and then once it
Um,
starts get growing?
Honestly, um, I I'll tell you from my experience and what I've seen works. Okay,
Yeah.
is that there's a couple truisms in the world.
Mhm.
It's always harder than you think, and it's always going to take twice as long as you think it will. Okay, so a lot of people, um, I tell
Instant
people, I said
gratification.
start it, because
Yeah.
here's the thing, like especially if you're starting your first business. Okay, start it as a side hustle, see if you even like it,
Mm.
because just like every job that you've probably ever had, what you thought the job was going to be and what it turned out to be is
Oh yeah.
very, very different, right? And so
Mhm.
you can say, hey, I really want to be a photographer. And then you get into it, you're like, it's a lot of business stuff and not a lot of photography. I don't really like it. So are you going to quit your day job before you even know that?
Mm.
I don't recommend it, right? I mean, unless you have like a minimum wage job and you can get another minimum wage job super easily, then
Yeah.
sure. But the problem is, what I tell people is don't quit your job. Use that money that you are earning from your job to be able to help fund this new business. So, because there's going to be
Mm.
expenses that you're going to need, like, whether you need a website or like buy product or buy training, which I tell people, it's like, get training, whether you hire a coach or you take workshops on, say that you want to be a photographer, buy equipment, um, you
Start
know,
investing in yourself.
investing in your education, because if you quit and you start running out of money quickly, right? Then you end up being very desperate. And so
Mm.
you end up, it's hard to be creative when you're desperate and you're
That's
worried about whether
true.
you're going to pay your rent
Yeah,
or
that's
you're going
very true.
to, right? And so it's hard to be like, let me think creative, let me shoot the best pictures and,
When you're worried about rent due.
you
Yeah.
rent, you're worried about what, do I have enough
Food.
money to pay my car payments? Do I,
Yeah.
am I going to be walking to my photography sessions and carrying my my camera equipment? Like, you don't want to
Yeah.
do that. And I think a lot of people don't really take into account how valuable having a job is in terms
Yeah.
of giving you that peace of mind, but also giving you the funds to be able to build the business that you truly want.
Do something that you do want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you may find that you may not like it, and you're just like, okay, I've done it for 4 to 5 months. I don't really enjoy it. It's not what I want. You have the ability to pivot to somebody else or something else.
Yeah. Or try something new.
But also, like I tell people, how you want to know when you, or how you know when you're ready to say quit your job, is that when you have, say, 3 months of consistent revenue that can cover your bills,
Mm.
right? Because 1 month it could be like a blip on the radar, right? You could be like, oh, I got lucky 1 month and made some money,
Yeah.
but then 2 months is kind of like, okay, is this a trend yet? Not really. 2 points doesn't create a trend, but three, you're like, okay, I can see the trajectory. Is like, if right now
Mm.
I'm putting in say 10 hours a week and I'm making say $2,000, right?
Consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, and then now if I know that if I spend 30, 40 hours a week, I can easily triple that revenue and I can cover my rent and I can
Mm.
cover everything else, then that may be a good
Yeah.
time for you to be able to say, hey, you know what? I want to go all in for that. But you have
Yeah.
data points, you have a pattern of growth, right? Whereas people, I've helped real estate investors grow their real estate business and teach them how to wholesale and fix and flip houses and things like that. And we do our first deal together, right? And they made like $15,000. They're like, I'm quitting my job. I'm like, no, do not do that. Because they're like, oh my God, I made more than I made in 2 months. I was like, I understand that. But
Yeah.
it's not a steady flow of business, because you buy a house, you fix it for 2 to 3 months, you put it on the market, it may sit for 3 or 4 months or whatever it is, and then maybe
Yeah.
another 6 months before you get paid again. You
I
see what I'm
think.
saying?
Yeah. I think the from my experience in real estate, I think the most money is made through appreciation.
No.
Because I think No,
No.
it's not. What is it?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about, because you make money on the buy side of real estate. You don't make money on the sell side. If you buy it right, you're always going to make money. If you buy it wrong, appreciation is 5 or 6% a year. When I buy a house, I buy it 30 to 50% off the price. I've already made more money than you make in 5 years
So
by
you
buying
buy
it
it
right.
with equity.
I buy it with a shit ton of equity in it already. So I bought houses that are $100,000 after repaired. I bought them for $40,000, $41,000, and only had about 10,000 in repairs into it, and I turned them into rental properties. And I was able to get a loan on them, put zero cash down out of my own pocket, because I bought them so well that the bank loaned me the whole amount of money, and I walked away with cash from the refinancing from a long-term loan. So over long term, if you want to buy real estate, yes, appreciation is the way to do it, but buying it as a rental property is somebody else paying down your mortgage is the other big side of
Equity
doing
in
it.
it. Yeah.
Is basically somebody buying equity into your property, right? And you're cash flowing. So in long term, yes, but when you are, like I say, you're wholesaling or you're fixing and flipping houses, the money's made on the buy side. And every seasoned real estate investor will tell you, if you buy it right, it doesn't matter where the market goes, you're still going to make money. Most people buy it wrong.
I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah.
Well, I know we have only a couple more minutes, so I want to ask you my final questions.
Sure.
Before that, I want to ask you a final question before the final questions. So let's say somebody reaches financial freedom, financial independence. They have millions in the bank. They have a legacy. Like, what do you think's next? Like after that, or do you think it just keeps going? Like, what's after that? You've reached everything you've ever wanted to reach, at least financially. What's next?
I'll let you know when I get there. You know what? I think that's...
Is that where you're at right now?
No,
Yeah.
not where I want to be. No. To me, it's... I mean, I think honestly, everybody's really different, right? Because some people... Like, I want to make to the money where I am able to retire, but I don't retire. And then that gives me the ability to either continue to build things because I find the joy in building it, go work on my nonprofit to impact the world and help as many people as I possibly can to get where I'm at. But also, continue to build because I think it's fun, right?
Yeah.
Because I think every new level of entrepreneurship, I think you're going to, as you grow, you're going to be like, oh, there's another level. Not because you need to go make more money to validate yourself or feel enough, because I think for the people that I surround myself with, is that a lot of them say they, when you get to, like, let's just say you get to the first 500,000 or the first million, they're like, okay, I feel like I'm happy now, right? What they realize is that they have this quote that somebody said, and it's like, you've achieved a thing that you thought was going to make you happy.
Yeah.
And yet they're not happy. So it's about learning about the game of fulfillment, right? It's not about just making the money. And once you get past the I made enough to not worry about money anymore part of your life, which for a lot of people, the number is a lot lower than what people realize, right? You know what I'm saying? You don't need that $1 million. Like if somebody, I would guesstimate that if you're making enough money, like you're paying your bills, you have money for vacations, and you could, go do the things you kind of want to do, but you still have a job and it'd be fine. And you're not stressing about rent. You can kind of go on the vacations you want. You can kind of spend the money and do the things you want to do. Not go buy a yacht or anything like that, but
like middle class.
Maybe
Maybe
a little bit more than that. But everybody's level of happiness is different. There's some people that as a couple make like $50,000, $60,000 and they live in middle America and they're completely happy. And
Yeah.
Awesome. But all I'm saying is that everybody's level of comfort of feeling like they got enough to do whatever they want to do with themselves is different for
It's
everybody. But
different.
like
Yeah.
after you get to that point and anything beyond that is very marginal difference in how happy you really are.
Happy or fulfilled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not going to be like, oh my God, if I make from 500 to a million, you're going to be happier.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
You're not really, right? From the people that I've encountered, they don't necessarily aren't happier. They have a new challenge where they're like, wow, I can make this, but what can I build that can say impact more people? What can I do even bigger?
Mm,
And it's not because they want to make more money. It's about like, hey, I can have a bigger impact. I can
yeah.
impact so many more people.
It's more of a purpose driven and fulfillment
Absolutely.
driven question than it
Yeah, and
is
so it's different levels, right?
finances.
It's different levels, right? Because
Yeah.
like you look at somebody like Elon Musk, after he sold PayPal, he had like $500 million or like $50 million. He didn't need to work another day in his life,
Yeah.
right?
I read
But he
his I read like half of his
biography.
yeah, he sold it for 20 million, and he said like the first year he was splurging like millions of it, and he saved like 15 million to I guess reinvest back
Hmm.
into like SpaceX and his other ventures.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, like he said, there's something so much bigger that I want to solve for humanity,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
It's
I mean,
crazy,
you're like,
yeah.
I want to make us a space, sparing
And people believe
species,
him too, yeah.
right? And he's got that vision of something way bigger. And I think that the top level entrepreneurs, when they've reached the financial freedom, they've reached the goals that they thought was gonna make them happy, and they're like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
fulfilled. I got the family I want. I'm fulfilled. I got all the toys I kind of want. I mean, I don't buying another yacht isn't gonna make me happier, but they do
Yeah.
the things that they truly wanted to do, whether that's a nonprofit or build a foundation to help
It's more
people,
purpose driven, yeah.
or they go build another company because they're like, oh, this is like a new thing that I really want to get into because I'm excited about it. And they
Mm.
go do it with the people that really matter in their lives. So like they work with the entrepreneur and the other people that are like, hey, I've really loved working with Jeff Bezos. Let's go build another company together, man. Like, because you get to do it with the
Yeah,
people you care about, and you get to
yeah.
do something new adventure, and it's hard and it's tough, but that's the juice of life that gets you excited every day. You're like, man, I want to do that. So for the people that actually
Yeah.
achieve it, they're not going to sit on the sidelines. They very rarely do. And most of them, like, I've heard people that have sold their company to like $2 billion. A year later, they're like, I'm bored out of my mind. I got to do something. And
Yeah.
sometimes they go buy another company,
Yeah.
not because they need the money. It's just because in order for you to go build, and the type of person you are to go build a company that you've just sold for $2 billion, most of it cash, like what are you going to do with your life? You're going to be bored out of your mind. You can only fly your
You could
plane so many times. You can go
yeah.
sit on your yacht for so long, but you're going to find something that is going to keep you excited.
Truly fulfilling and exciting, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's the same for all high achievers. It's very rare that you'll get somebody playing golf for like years on end and just be like, I'm so fulfilled. Very rarely.
Unless they become like a pro, but then even then there's a
But that's a different challenge, right? That's like
oh yeah,
that's a different
yeah.
career, right? You're not
Yeah.
doing it because you're just having fun hitting the golf ball with your buddies all day and drinking beer
It's
all
a
day.
competition now.
It's a
Yeah.
competition. You're having to train, and you got to focus, and you got to travel, and you got to, put in the grind and things like that. So that, there's a lot of professionals that go challenge a new sport, and they take up a new thing, whatever, and then they're doing it. So yeah, that's what I suspect I will be when I get to that point myself. Is it's going to be
Well,
multiple companies that I'm building, and it's going to be something fun that I'm excited about, and yeah.
no, I love that, man. Well, Trung, I play this game at the end of all of my podcasts called Where Should We Begin?
I have that
I
game.
pu- it's a good game.
Esther Perel, I love her.
Yeah. So I pulled out a random cards,
All
no
right.
kinky ones. I take out all the kinky ones. Uh, and then after that, I have my final five like quick questions that you could
Sure.
answer, quick or long. Um, so share something unforgettable about my most tenacious vice.
Say that again. So share my most. What? Say that. Read. I can't read it. It's kind of blurry.
Uh, so it goes together. Share something unforgettable about my most tenacious vice.
So my vice. I love cars. Okay, so
You splurge on them?
I know I race cars.
Oh, you race cars?
Yeah, so we are. I have a racing team that we started last year, and we race in the 24-hour endurance races.
What?
Yeah, so we race in a series
How
called
do
the
you use the
24.
bathroom?
Well, you're not in the car for 24 hours. You race for three-hour stints, 2-hour stints, and then you change drivers.
Oh, it's like a relay race, kind of.
It's yeah. You have 4 drivers, and you rotate throughout the race.
Okay.
So you get breaks and things like that. So you're not in the car for 24 hours. That would not be safe. Most
Get a
people have
catheter.
about a 3-hour time window where they could speak.
You have to take a break.
Well, because what most people don't realize is racing cars is incredibly mentally taxing. Because you're
Really?
driving this car at 100 miles an hour, you're going around corners, you got another 100 drivers on the track going 100 miles an hour, making moves,
A lot of motor control, yeah.
a lot of mental
It uses
focus on.
that motor like brain power.
Yeah, no, you're constantly like looking in your mirrors to see who's coming up behind you, what line they're gonna take, what
Yeah.
line you need to take, how fast, what gear you need to be in.
I can see that. Yeah.
And you need to see like who's ahead of you, what speed they're going, what line they're gonna take, so you go around them. Because on a racetrack, when there's like 100 drivers, like the races I've been in have 100 to 110 drivers on there, and they're all different speeds, so they run very varying speeds, right? So it's some cars that are faster than you that are just hauling ass around you. There's some cars that are slower than you, so you got to pass them, but you gotta your head's on a swivel the whole time. So yeah, I mean, it's just
Racing is your vice.
it is so much fun. It's not cheap,
I can
but it
imagine.
is so much fun, and it's something I started picking up last year. We joined our first endurance race in Houston in November of last year, and we had so much fun. We blew the engine after about 3 hours into the first day of the race. We spent the next 10 hours rebuilding the engine in the pits and getting it back on the track and racing.
What kind of cars is
We
it?
actually have a 1992 Honda Accord that we turned into a race car. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so the race is, so you put a full roll cage in the car, and it's like everybody's fully kitted out
Geared
in
out,
terms of
yeah.
So you have your full Nomex suit on and everything. So and you got your Hans device on, and you got a 6-point harness and a racing seat and everything. So it's a fully kitted out race car, and it's not a. So
sounds
there's nothing.
fun.
Only then the body is the car is really stock, right? And so everything's stripped out of the inside of the car, so it's bare metal inside, and so you have a full roll cage in there and everything. So yeah, so we do that, and that's like one of my vices that I absolutely love. So it's hella good fun.
Nah, one day I want to try out. I don't know if you can try it out, but like F1, like I don't know how they practice, but I think it'd be fun to practice that one day.
I don't think you'd ever be into a Formula One car. You can get an. There's some
Something similar
racing
or
schools
something.
that give you open wheels type of car that you can do like a
Yeah.
3-day driving school, that they can give you time in the seat of a single seater open wheel racing type of car.
Yeah,
Nobody would
'cause,
ever get you into a $10 million
yeah.
Formula One car. They're incredibly hard to drive,
Yeah.
and they're very expensive. So unless you are a FIA licensed racing driver that actually has a lot of experience, most of the time they will never let you in near one of those.
Yeah, one of the podcasts I was listening to with one of the pros in F1 said he practiced in like karting, like basic karting, I guess.
Well,
Like
almost all
go-karts.
Formula One drivers started their careers racing go-karts.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah, yeah. They almost every one of them. Most of them are Europeans that really make it to the top level of Formula One, and they practice They
I
they
think that's a
they earn their
crazy
stripes
sport
through go
too.
karting.
Yeah,
But the go karts that you get like at any go kart place versus the ones that they
it's
race
not gonna
in
be
is
that
not the
way.
same. It's
Yeah,
very very different. They're so much faster.
I think that would be fun though to
Oh
do
no,
that.
they're hella good fun. They're I've driven one and it's like holy crap because your butt's like an inch off the ground. So like
Oh,
and so
because
the
they have to
closer
make
you are to
sharp
the ground,
turns.
the faster it
Yeah.
feels.
Mm.
So like like if you're like on an SUV and you're going 100 miles an hour down the
You're like
road,
up
it kind of
high.
feels like you're
Yeah.
floating. You don't really know that you're how fast you're really going.
Yeah.
But if you're sitting at like 40 miles an hour and your butt's like an inch off the ground and you see
You
the
see the road right
street
there.
flying by
Yeah.
you, you're like, this is really fast. And you start going
Yeah.
60, you're like, it's starting to get scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I have 5 questions I ask all my guests at
All
the
right, let's do
end.
it.
My first question is, what is your biggest regret?
My biggest regret is not to move to Austin sooner than I did. I've really loved Austin. I've really loved the people here, and I spent about 30 years in Houston. And I wish I had moved a lot sooner.
Why?
I love the. For me, I spent time there because it was comfortable, easy access to jobs. There was my friend network there that I've built for so many years, but I really never enjoyed living in Houston that much.
No,
I
I mean,
traveled the
why do
world.
you feel that way about Austin now?
Oh, to me, I love being outdoors. I love having access to the lake. I live right now 2 blocks from the lake. And so I literally walk downstairs, walk 2 blocks. I'm running on the trails. I could go paddleboarding. It's just the active lifestyle of the people here and the entrepreneurs that are in this city. Everybody here is here to change the world. They're
Yeah.
they're wanting to do something big, and I think that's a beautiful kind of type of energy to be surrounded with.
That's
So
something that I noticed as well in Austin. There's a lot of like go-getters out here.
yeah, and everybody's here for somebody else, so everybody's very friendly, wanting to meet other people because they're all newbies too. Like everybody's here. The
Yeah.
majority of the people are here for less than 2 3 years, and so everybody's like, "Hey, I'm new here too. I want to be friends."
Yeah.
And so
You're
everybody's just
gonna
super
find
friendly.
somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's just super nice and like young and vibrant and full of energy, and full of life. So I really enjoy that.
Who or what has made the biggest impact in your life so far?
I would say my mom, in terms of giving me the work ethic and seeing how hard she struggled and how much she sacrificed for my family, as well as just give me like the work ethic and just watching her bust her butt
Grind.
to just give us the opportunity.
Yeah.
Like that forged a lot of the work habits that I have now that have brought me the success that I have. So
I love it.
yeah.
What's one lesson that you had to learn the hard way?
Trust but verify. I am excited when I started doing real estate deals that I'm like, oh, I believed face
Yeah.
value what they said, and
Uh,
and I got burned pretty badly and lost like $100,000 on some deals because I
Jesus.
didn't go in and verify what they actually said. And yeah, it was a hard
That's a
lesson to
big
learn.
what would you do, or we kind of covered this one already, but what would you do or experience in life if you had all the time and all the money in the world?
You know what? I would probably end up doing a lot of charity work, a lot of giving back to the communities that don't have it, to give them the skills, give them the resources to be able to live a much more fulfilled life. For me, whether that's through entrepreneurship or through personal development and mindset work and healing a lot of the people. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And is there any last thing you'd like to share with the audience?
You know what, man? I think I would say start before you're ready. You're never going to be ready. It's kind of like being a parent. Like there's nothing prepares you to do it until you do it. And
Oh yeah, that's so true.
and for people to want to start that business, like you don't have to wait for that perfect time. The perfect time is today. And you're always going to look back on a year later after you start. You're like, wow, I wish I started earlier. Because the things that you learn being an entrepreneur, and you want to start that business because you want that freedom, go ahead and start today. Start before you're ready and just learn as you go. And one thing that to accelerate that is find somebody that's done it, find somebody that has done the path ahead of you, and learn from them. Whether it's through me, through another coach, through workshops, through other people on podcasts, but you don't have to do it alone. Somebody, whatever you're doing, somebody's done it ahead of you and it forged the path. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to learn it the hard way and make all the mistakes yourself, because I did that for many years in my photography business, and I wasted many, many years and lots of money when I didn't have to. So don't do what I did. Find somebody that's done it, learn from them, and save yourself years, if not decades.
Trung Huynh, everyone. Where can people go check you out if they want to?
I'm on social media, Trung Huynh on Facebook, and then Trung Q Huynh on Instagram. But my website is trunghuynh.co, and that's where you can find information about my coaching services, and you can go book a call with me. I do 30-minute breakout sessions or breakthrough sessions with people where if they're really stuck in their business, it's a free, full value session, not a sales call at all. Just, hey, if you're stuck, we can talk about it, see what we can do to kind of get you unstuck and get you back on your path. So most of the time I can probably do it in 15 minutes, but I try to say give me 30 minutes. But I've been at this game for 24 years. When I probably within 10 minutes of hearing what you're doing, I can probably tell you what you need to do like in the next 2 to 3 weeks to really change your business. So that's it. Yeah.
Oh man, I'd love to stay connected with you as well. I know we're both in Austin, so
Absolutely, brother.
one day we gotta connect. But yeah, everyone go check him out.
Thanks, guys.